We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
I have a lot here. Okay, so what in the fucking hell was that? Like, how the fuck do you end the fucking movie that way? What the fuck was that? We were in the middle of a scene and it just started glitching out, and then it just got weird, warbly. Like
of the film.
Yeah,
Yes.
What,
Right.
like,
This was supposed to be the climax.
I know that this was like his own personal cut, but like you didn't fucking end the movie. What the fuck was that? Was Evan dying? Is that what we're supposed to assume? Is he just died in that scene?
And we all saw it because we
saw what he saw while he was dying. And at one point we hear some screaming and like we hear Benir like yelling. So I'm like, well, did Benir like get on top of him and choke him to death or something in that scene?
I thought that was him remembering the torture scene, and Benir was yelling at him from that.
So Benir's just like watching this dude tweak out in front of him. That like,
maybe it's cold outside.
What's going on?
It was completely almost incoherent in the studio cut. We tracked it back and forth between it, where it's like, you know, they talk about how Benir's father knew some guy who came to the United States in the 40s and saw that it was a land of like decadence and hedonism, and he hated it, and that created this whole like the Islamic Brotherhood or the Muslim Brotherhood, this fundamentalist extremist group, like they talk about how like Benir's the extension of that. Like he's written about how the United States sees itself as a religion, and then that's no different than them being fundamentalists who fight with their fight, and then. They have this back and forth where Evan is sort of losing it, but also like trying to defend his values and talk about how
and still lucid enough to interact with Benir.
In this version, all that's lost. There's clips of them talking about it, but there's no context for it, so you have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Like that's the resolution of the original movie, is explaining, you know, this coming together of these two guys, you know, and I think that's where I was getting at, where. I think in that cut, at least, it was like Schrader was trying to paint this picture of like they're representations of each other's organization. You got this, you've got Benir representing fundamentalist extremist Islam, and they've got this disease of the blood that's killing them, and they'll never get over it. There's no cure for it. You know, basically they're just self-destructive and terrible. And then you've got Evan, who's a representation of the CIA or the United States or whatever, who's dying from a brain disease and is completely obsessed with tracking these people down, even though it has nothing, solves nothing in the grander scheme of things. And there's this, at least this message you could formulate from the studio cut that this was what they was trying to portray or something. But in this one, that doesn't exist because it's just this jumbled mess of them talking and blah, 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 and then it just turns into mush and then the movie ends.
Reminded me of The Lost Highway. I don't know if you guys ever seen that, but that just kind of makes no sense towards the end, and like you can dig into it further and try and figure it out, but really it's just like some wacky visuals and a highway and like a guy's face distorting and weird, and then the movie ends and you're just like, what in the fuck was that about? But this is like this is to that to an extreme where it's just like, what in the goddamn hell were we supposed to get from that fucking ending? Did he just not have access to the other footage? Is that what actually happened here?
He had to, though, because he pulled shit off of the original DVD. I mean, the original film.
He did.
But it's just like, this feels like a high school film class ending. Like, well, we don't have any money. We don't have anything we can really do. So let's just throw some weird fucking music with some weird graphics.
We'll put something weird in that you have to interpret as an art piece of some sort.
I mean, on its own, as an art piece, as a standalone scene, trying to portray on film somebody dying of a brain aneurysm or a complete mental breakdown of their brain or mush has some merit to it, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it's unique. It gets you thinking or seeing something that you're not likely to experience in your own life. But as the climax to, generally, but as the climax to an hour and a half leading up to it or whatever of a film, we're expecting some kind of resolution or payoff. It's not an ending to that. It's just like the movie basically ends when they land in Mombasa, essentially. Is what it's saying.
Yeah,
it's
pretty
like
much.
The movie ends after Act 2.
Yeah, I think
there's no real ending to it.
If they had gone from that to Milton finding him wandering the streets of Mombasa, just completely detached from reality, it would have been a more I think it would have been a little more impactful. Like he leaves We can interpret whether he killed Benir or not. Probably not, because this dude is full on fucking gone.
Yeah.
And then I could like cut to his grave. I don't know, but like I think
either his grave or him like in the hospital where John Rambo was,
Rambo,
like just showing that's where he ended up, and we just kind of assume what happened one way or the other.
I think if you would have cut to him in the car with Milton, that scene that was in the studio cut. And then he says, I would like to have seen him walk out and we know Benir is still alive, but then him say, oh, you should have heard him scream. It was so worth it,
He's
and
just completely gone.
Then he just
complete mental
that's not really what I'm thinking is like he realized that this was not worth it and that it was, he had just done all this for nothing. And then he gets in the car with Milton and they drive away. We fade to black and then it cuts to his grave. That would have made much more sense to me. Of like, okay, well, he realized that this was a fool errand at the last moment. When he finally confronted his arch nemesis, he realized, oh, this guy's dying. I'm dying. What the fuck are we even doing this for?
Yeah, we're both just spouting nonsense and
And it also would have echoed what you were saying of like, the disease of the brain is the American disease of like going over here and killing all these people for no reason, really, and pointless exercise. And then
or even
the disease of the blood, from
It's not maybe if it's not no reason, but it's like just as retribution for what these other people are doing, which again solves nothing. It's just retribution for the sake of it.
This is like his take on
it's just
revenge.
This cycle.
Revenge is an endless loop.
Yeah,
it's just endless. You never really get real satisfaction or justice from revenge. It just keeps repeating itself because it's going to lead to more. It's going to lead to another incident that you have to then go avenge, and it's never ending. I can see that, but it all falls flat because he fucking ends the film in the middle of a 9 Inch Nails music video.
So is it about that, or is it about this guy dying of dementia, or literally dying on screen as we watch it through his eyes or something? Who knows?
I will say I kind of hated the way that they did the other one, where it's like he let Benir go, and then Benir's guys come after him. So it's like, okay, well, that was the whole time we've been kind of painting Benir as being, kind of not the person he was at that point, and he realizes that he's lost the faith in his, crazy thing as well.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. He says
that. That was when I was a believer or whatever.
I used to be a believer. And then Evan also says that about the CIA. I was a believer then. Yeah. But then he sends his goons after him anyway and kills a bunch of tourists.
And then they kill that whole. It just ruins that whole resolution of these are two guys who are broken, and they both admit they don't believe in what they used to believe in, and they wasted their lives,
and they did a bunch of terrible shit for no reason.
Yep. They wasted their lives because of those causes that they were chasing after.
I feel like one good rewrite by somebody not named Paul Schrader probably would have fixed this whole thing. Maybe some script doctors come in, but it was a low budget movie, and it was Paul Schrader's art piece that he wanted to make, and he wanted to make an Oliver Stone movie for whatever reason that was just failed at everything that Oliver Stone is great at, and then ended it like David Lynch. Yeah, but at least David Lynch has a point when he ends a movie like that, I mean, I think that he was trying to go for a deeper meaning, and I think he was also trying to show Evan dying to us in a way. But at the same time, it's like, what was the point of the 75 minutes that we watched if it's going to end like that? What the fuck?
You feel cheated. Feel cheated as an audience member.
I was genuinely enjoying the movie until that happened. I was like, this is a much better film than Dying of the Light was. And then that happened, and I just turned on the movie immediately. I was just like, fuck this movie.
I think it really is the worst ending I've ever seen in a film. And I haven't seen a ton of them. I watched the movies, but I haven't seen a whole bunch of, I'm sure there's tons of movies I haven't seen that have worse endings, but this, for me, is possibly the worst. I mean, I as of right now, I'm saying it's the worst ending I've ever seen in a movie.
Same.
I guess the only way it could have ended worse is if he walked in to see Benir and then the movie literally just ended. Soprano
Just
style
cuts.
or something, you know.
And then we see his grave.
Like you don't even get this thought provoking, you know, whatever the hell's going on. But
yeah, exactly.
I'm so glad we're done with this. These two movies. I'm so glad that this is over.
I just want to say, like to Paul Schrader, do you think it made any difference? What you did, do you think it made any difference?
Touche.
You know, you had your movie ripped away from you and then you made this cut. Do you think it had any effect or meant anything?
Touche.
This was not a small endeavor. He had to have a guy come in and recut this entire movie with his supervision. He obviously had been thinking about Dying in the Light nonstop to the point where he was like, I have to get this out for historical record. I have to get this out. So he contemplated this for 3 years because the movie was filmed in 2013, came out in 2014. He hated the cut that the studio did, and he didn't come out with this version until 2017, this was cut after Dog Eat Dog, by the way.
It makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
I really liked how they died in a jumbled mess in Dog Eat Dog with colors and stuff. I'll do that again.
The ending of Dog Eat Dog wasn't confusing enough. I need something else. I want to chase that high of confusion.
So it's almost semi-autobiographical then. If like Paul Schrader is Evan chasing down the final cut of this movie just to get it out there. You can't let it go when even the studio was like, you know, nope, we're taking this away. You're done. Like, this isn't your problem anymore. Don't worry about it. Go off into the sunset and forget about it. And he's still really obsessed over it for 3 more years and came out with this cut that just
was pointless.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I guess was Evan's whole mission. I guess that makes sense. That's the best explanation I've ever heard.